This has to be one of the most well-trained audiences. Nice and quiet for you. All right. Thanks, Mark. All right, we're gonna turn on my mic there. Gonna call to order the Sparks City Council meeting for Monday, May 12th, 2025, and we'll do that with a roll call, please.
Thank you. Mayor Lawson is out today. Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Here.
Council members Abbott.
Here.
Vanderwell.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
City Attorney Duncan. Here. City Manager Louthan.
Here.
We do have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll start with an invocation with our own City Attorney, Wes Duncan.
Thank you. I'm going to read from the first three verses of 23rd chapter of Psalms. It says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul." Lord, I just thank you, God. Lord, that you refresh our soul, and you're the only one that can do that for us. Lord, I just pray just for our city council today, Lord, as they're making decisions that impact our city. I pray that you would guide them wisdom and discernment. God, we're thankful that we are acknowledging our public works team today, Lord. All the great stuff that they do for our city, the way it impacts our citizens. Thank you for their efforts. And I just pray, Lord, that, Lord, we would be refreshed by you and that we would feel your presence in our city and we would be protected by you. And we say these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'll tell you what, to lead us off in the pledge, firefighter Nick Corona, would you mind starting us off?
Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll move on to item 4, public comment. And actually, speaking of Nick Corona, Nick, would you come up and introduce yourself, please? Sure.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Temp, members of the City Council. For the record, Nick Corona, Fire Captain and Academy Commander for the Sparks Fire Academy. I'm again here to strongly advocate for the retaining of the 5 firefighter recruits that will be graduating Academy in just a few weeks. Over the last 6 months, these recruits have undergone extensive and rigorous training funded by the taxpayers of this city. This includes their Fire Academy education, specialized technical training, commercial driver's licensure, and most notably, paramedic school, a critical and high-demand skill set in today's fire service. These investments have not been small. They represent a significant financial and time commitment on the part of this city, ensuring these individuals meet a high standard that we require to protect and serve our community. Let me emphasize this point. If we do not retain these firefighters, we are effectively handing over a ready-made workforce to other fire departments, who would gladly benefit from our investment without contributing a single dollar to their training. To put this in perspective, imagine buying a brand new car, making payments on it every month, and just as it's ready to hit the road, someone else drives it off the lot. That's exactly what would happen if we do not retain these recruits. Other fire departments would eagerly take them, reaping the benefits of our investment, and I personally have been contacted by 4 other departments informing me that if these recruits are let go, they will take them off our hands. This will not only be a disservice to our firefighters, but also to the taxpayers who trusted us to make sound financial decisions on their behalf. We are here today to speak of the value of being good stewards of public funds. Allowing these recruits to leave after we've invested so much in their education and training is not consistent with that responsibility. These are highly trained, dedicated individuals who are ready to serve our community, the community of Sparks and its citizens, businesses, and visitors. Sending them elsewhere not only wastes taxpayers' dollars, but also diminishes our capacity to respond to the increased demands of our fire service, especially with the impending opening of Station 6 and anticipated retirements, of which 3 of those retirements are in the next 5 months of their graduation. Moreover, the loss of these recruits would create a ripple effect, forcing us to start the recruitment and training process all over again. If these recruits are let go, we will be hard-pressed getting them back, especially if they are picked up by another agency. That means more months of academy costs, more months, if not years, without fully staffed crews, and delayed improvements in response times and services. By letting even one of these recruits go will be devastating to our department and a disservice to the community and its resources. By retaining these 5 firefighters, we not only respect the investment made by our taxpayers, but also ensure the safety and well-being of the community. I urge you to act decisively and support retaining these 5 firefighters. Unfreezing certain positions and hiring new employees will have a greater financial impact and cost versus keeping our existing ones. That's business 101. And if we're talking about how to prevent deeper cuts going forward, this is how. Please don't let any of these firefighters and the investments we've made in them drive off the lot. Retain them and let them serve the community that they've trained so hard to protect. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next one is Hannah. And Hannah, I didn't say your last name because I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
It's Hubiar.
Hubiar.
Yep.
All right.
Don't fall off the chair, that's the goal.
Hello, Council. It's good to see all of you again. It's been about a year since I've been here. I want to share with you Project Bear Hugs is doing another Go Bag preparation. So if there are any seniors in your community that are in need of supplies and don't know where to get them, please have them reach out to us. As we saw, our community is not we always have fires, and as we saw with the Davis fire in my house specifically, it does not spare anybody. So it's important to have those supplies, and if anybody needs them, you know how to reach out to us, and if you don't, some of you guys have my information. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michael Zopa?
Zopa, yeah. Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. My name is Mike Zopa, Vice President of Local IFF 731, representing the Men and Women Sparks Fire Department. Before you guys move on to the agenda items today, I want to take a moment to speak directly on the budget proposal and the waste management fee increase, both of which are expected to shape the future of public safety in Sparks. As you know, the previously proposed budget includes the elimination of 7 fire department positions, 5 of which are frontline firefighter roles. This comes at a time when our department remains critically understaffed, currently operating below the levels we had in 2009. We understand that our brothers and sisters in the police department are understaffed as well. However, unlike their departments, the fire department has never fully recovered from the Great Recession of 2008. And these proposed cuts only serve to widen that gap. We understand that the city is in a tough financial spot, and this council is in a position to make some hard decisions. But now that revenue options like the waste management fee increase are on the table, it's deeply concerning to see that the funding proposed is not to retain all the firefighter positions that we currently have, but instead to possibly add new positions to the police department who are not facing layoffs. Again, this is not about us versus them. We support public safety and our public safety partners fully. But equity matters, and fairness in how the city protects its residents matters. We are not asking for growth, we're asking for stability. We're asking for a chance to retain the firefighters who are currently employed, who are so close to finishing their training, who are eager to gain valuable experience, and who are deeply committed to the safety of the city of Sparks. Several of you have voiced concerns during the last budget meeting about these cuts and asked about ways to possibly retain these positions. We appreciate that more than you guys know. Now that a possible funding source has been identified, we urge you please revisit how those funds are going to be allocated. Thank you for hearing our concerns, and thank you for your continued commitment to public safety.
Thank you. Tom Dunn?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, City Manager Luthan. For the record, Tom Dunn, Vice President of the Reno Firefighters Association. In 1998, Sparks Fire Department had 89 total personnel, 4 stations, ran 5,413 calls for service, and served a population of 64,000. Today, the department has 98 personnel, soon to be 6 stations, 15,000 plus calls for service a year, serving a population of 110,000 people. Sparks Fire Department has been doing more with less since 2009, and any financial or personnel cut to the department will have a negative impact on fire department efficiency and service delivery to the entire community. Regardless of the decision that you make today, We request that a plan be developed to retain personnel in a timely manner, to return personnel in a timely manner so that the taxpayers receive the services that they expect and deserve. A healthy and vibrant community requires public safety to include fire protection, building inspections, and EMS response. Do not expect your firefighters to be quiet waters when it comes to public and firefighter safety. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we'll go to Mark Markel.
A Yucaipa man was in critical condition Friday at Loma Linda University Medical Center, where he was taken for treatment of head injuries after a car crash Thursday, authorities said. Mark Markel, 24, was thrown from a 1977 Datsun as it overturned on Live Oak Canyon Road at the eastbound Interstate 10 off-ramp at 4:30 p.m., said California Highway Patrol Officer Amber Drysdale. The driver was driving south on Live Oak Canyon Road when he lost control of the car, struck a curb, and skidded into the off-ramp. The vehicle rolled over several times and landed on top of Mark Markel.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council member, City Manager, and City Attorney. My name is Mark Markel. I'm a concerned Nevada resident. I had to read this. I just don't want anyone else to go through what I went through, what I'm going through. And little kids, they're precious, and they shouldn't be subjected to drunk drivers. If you're drunk and you drive with a kid in the car that drunk, you should never, you know what I'm trying to say. I think. But anyways, I just wanted to say that I don't want anyone else to go through what I've been through, not to get in the car with a drunk driver. And we were in the mountains of Southern California drinking wine, 4 gallons of wine in 4 hours. I think, I don't know. It's been just a long time, but I just, we're on our way to get more, and that's when we wrecked. And I just don't want anyone else to go through what I'm going through. It would be a total drag if you did. And I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to approval of the agenda. Do we have anyone that wants to pull any items out or make any changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Member Vanderwell?
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Member Rodriguez? I second. All in favor? Oh, that's a different meeting that I say that. Please vote. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And we'll go to 6.1, consideration possible approval of minutes of the Sparks City Council meeting for April 28, 2025. Any changes or additions? I'll take a motion. Member Bybee?
I move to approve the minutes of the Sparks City Council meeting for April 28th, 2025.
Member Abbott?
Second.
Please vote. It passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7.1, Proclamation National Public Works Week. And I believe that is you? All right, thank you.
So, whereas public works professionals are essential to building and maintaining the infrastructure, facilities, and services that support the health, safety, and quality of life for the people of Sparks. And whereas engineers, managers, and skilled workers across both public and private sectors work every day to improve our roads, water systems, public buildings, and more, contributing to a strong and resilient community. And whereas Public Works maintenance plays a vital role in ensuring the smooth operation and safety of our community by providing essential services, including road maintenance, facility upkeep, and infrastructure repair, demonstrating unwavering dedication to the well-being of all residents. And whereas the dedicated professionals of the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, Tumwharf, play a critical role in protecting public health and the environment through the safety and efficient treatment of wastewater for the city of Sparks and the region. And whereas greater awareness and understanding of public works programs benefit residents of all ages and help foster appreciation for the important work done behind the scenes. And whereas the American Public Works Association has designated the theme for 2025 as People, Purpose, Presence, highlighting how public works professionals meet the needs of people driven by purpose and maintain a constant presence in our communities to enhance quality of life. Now, therefore, I, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through May 24th, 2025, as National Public Works Weeks, and encourage all residents to recognize the dedication of our public works teams and celebrate their vital role in keeping the City of Sparks running strong.
Did we have someone from Public Works that wanted to speak?
All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Casey Menser, treatment plant manager at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, for the record. I just wanted to say that on behalf of all my staff out at Tumwharf, that we greatly appreciate the recognition. We are staffed 24/7 every single day of the year, and I'm pleased that we have representatives from our laboratory, our operations, and our maintenance departments. You know, without the professionalism, the ongoing commitment, drive, there is no way that we could absolutely, do any of the work that we do to safeguard public health and the environment. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of everyone out at Tumwharf.
Mark Anderson, Public Works Manager. I'll echo what Casey said. I'm lucky in the fact that I get to sit and tell the stories of what the staff at Public Works does on a daily basis, and very rarely do you guys get to meet them face to face. So welcome. Thank you guys for coming, and thank you for what you do.
And could we do us a favor? All of you that are in Public Works, would you stand up so we could recognize you, please? Awesome. Thank you guys very much. I say quite often, you guys are the ones behind the scenes that are making it happen, and most people don't notice it until something doesn't go right. So we appreciate what you do.
I had a comment.
Member Bybee?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to echo my thanks. I think in the 10 and a half years I've been here, I realized pretty early on, Public Works are the people that you don't see. You're not, you're on the front lines, but people don't think about it until we've got roads that are covered in snow, till we have sewers that are backed up, or drainage, or parks and maintenance, and everything, all the everyday really hard work you guys do, especially in weather conditions, summer and winter, is so appreciated because it's necessary. I mean, really, one of the most important things that we do is what Public Works is doing every single day. And love when we every year are able to recognize that. But please know that every day your hard work is appreciated. And, even though it doesn't feel like and maybe some of you don't want to be in the spotlight, I really want to recognize you today and thank you. Thank you for everything that you guys do. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. And if you want to step outside, all of the Public Works folks and Councilmember Bybee will step out there and you get some jeepers, creepers.
I was just talking.
Yeah. Get a photo taken. One job.
I'm
One
here,
job.
so I'll just, we'll keep going.
you all for your patience. Member Biden. Oh, golly.
I'm sitting right here.
Strike two.
Are you just ignoring me?
Holy cow. I'm not ignoring you. You're the one that I keep giving credit to.
How about Vanderbilt?
And here we have Member Vanderwell. All right, we're going to move on to item 7.2, Proclamation NF2 Awareness Day. Do we have anyone to accept that one today? If you'll please come down, and after she reads the proclamation, we'll give you a moment to introduce yourself.
Okay, now it's me.
Now it's you.
Okay. Whereas neurofibromatosis type 2, NF2, is a rare genetic disorder that causes tumors to develop in the brain, spine, and long nerves, often resulting in hearing loss, vision impairment, and mobility challenges and life-threatening complications. And whereas NF2 affects approximately 1 in 25,000 people of all backgrounds and ages, with most patients facing multiple tumors and the ongoing risk of new tumor growth due to a mutation in a tumor suppression gene. And whereas current treatment options, including surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy, can be physically taxing and may damage vital nerve function with no known cure yet available, and whereas research for NF2 patients remains underfunded due to its rarity, despite the urgent need for safer and more effective treatments. And whereas NF2 Biosolutions, a nonprofit founded by parents of NF2 patients, collaborates with leading global researchers to advance treatments that aim to eliminate tumors, prevent new growth, and preserve nerve function. Therefore, on behalf of Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, we hereby proclaim the day of May 22nd as NF2 Awareness Day in the City of Sparks and encourage all citizens to learn more about NF2 and support efforts to find a cure.
If you'll please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Allie Williams. I was born and raised here in Northern Nevada, and my family and I are proud to call Sparks our home. I'm here today on behalf of my sister-in-law, Stevie, who serves as Nevada's ambassador for NF2 Biosolutions. She couldn't be here because she's currently at Stanford with my nephew, Tucker, for his quarterly medical appointments. They have to travel out of the state every 3 months because, unfortunately, there are no NF2 specialists here in Nevada. My nephew Tucker was diagnosed with neurofibromatosis type 2, or NF2, 3 years ago when he was just in kindergarten. Since then, he's undergone 2 brain surgeries, and he's scheduled for a 3rd this summer, all before his 9th birthday in September. This rare genetic disorder causes tumors to grow throughout the central nervous system. These tumors can lead to hearing loss, vision problems, mobility challenges, and other serious complications. Patients like Tucker face a lifetime of monitoring and risky treatments, and no cure is currently available. NF2 Biosolutions is a volunteer-run nonprofit founded by parents of children with NF2. It holds a platinum seal of transparency on GuideStar, and every dollar goes directly to research for better treatments and, ultimately, a cure. May is NF Awareness Month, and May 22nd is officially recognized as NF2 Awareness Day. I'm asking for your support in recognizing this day and helping raise awareness for the patients and families affected. On behalf of Tucker, our family, and the NF2 community, thank you for listening and for your support.
Right, thank you. Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you, Allie, for being here and meeting you at the walk we did 2 years ago. And for all of you, bless your heart, Charlene, for having me to read that word. I can't say it, but I said it 2 years ago. And I think we all got to meet Tucker, actually, and Adam, her brother, was here as well with us. But it's a great cause. I hope Steve is watching. I know she's really doing great things. I see the updates on Facebook with Tucker down there. So just thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting the great cause. And I know you're a part of it for our life now. So thank you.
Thank you.
And if you would step over here, Member Bybee will join you for a photo. All right, 7.3 Proclamation for Salvation Army Week. And I know we have some folks here for that. If you'll go ahead and step on down, and Member Rodriguez will read that proclamation for you.
Thank you, sir. City of Sparks Proclamation. Whereas the Salvation Army, only business in Nevada since 1884, is still a human business, undertaken with the joy of the family of humankind to the greater glory of God. And whereas through sound initiative and professional services, the Salvation Army serves the people of the City of Sparks with unshakable faith in all humanity. No matter how desperate the situation and the views, all people as people with possibilities. And whereas the Salvation Army acts on behalf of the residents of Sparks with neither religious affiliation nor any condition prerequisite, nor expecting any thanks, yet nonetheless welcoming the community support. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Lawson, City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim May 12th through the 18th of 2025 as the Salvation Army Week.
And if you will please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization.
I'm Major Randy Hart. I am the Northern Nevada Coordinator for the Salvation Army. And when you go ahead and
I'm Blaine Gale, for the record. I'm the board chair.
Great. The Salvation Army has been serving Northern Nevada in this area, specifically Reno, Sparks area, since 1894, 1905, after the city was incorporated. Specifically, some of the acts that we've done is the soldier train, 1954. We were there serving as the soldiers went off to Korea to serve our country and to help in that conflict over there. And since those times, the Salvation Army has always been actively involved in helping human need, no matter where, in the name of Jesus Christ, without discrimination. We will continue to do so to serve folks. We serve those in rehabilitation situations, homelessness, those who are mentally ill. Now we're serving in our ARP program as well as social services throughout the community, throughout Northern Nevada, and bringing support also in times of disasters. They've now gotten on the regional and state VOAD, which I've become a part of, and we're really trying to find any way that we can serve and help our communities. So thank you all so much for recognizing us.
I'm again Blaine Gale. I've been here several times. Thank you for your time. I've been involved in the Salvation Army for about 15 years, the chair for the last 5. Phenomenal organization. I don't think it's an exaggeration when I say that we all have known someone that a family has been destroyed over an addiction, even maybe possibly a loss of a human life. What we do is we help those families to be reunited and to get the feet back in the ground of those that have had the addictions. Addictions come in all forms: alcohol, drugs, spending, you name it. An addiction it changes lives and it destroys families. I'm very glad to be part of the Salvation Army, and also happy to report that about 85 cents of every dollar we raise goes back into our program, not administration costs. That's pretty unique in the world of nonprofit organizations. Again, 85 cents goes back into our program, and we help a great deal of men in the Northern Nevada program. We don't have a women's program, but we definitely want to get that going someday. But right now, we're very happy with our success. Thank you.
And finally, in the stabilization of families as well through our social services, through our ongoing programs for children, for teens and adults. We now added a new program, which is a family night, and we're also helping families as well as counseling and getting them help they need to have stronger families. So our program continues to expand, and we are grateful to help serve in any way the city of Sparks in any way that we can help.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want to step over, Julie will take a photo of y'all. All right, we'll move on to, and I believe, Mr. City Manager, is it all right if I give you 7.4, 7.5, and 7.6, all of them?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. There are 2 vacancies on the Sparks Parks and Recreation Commission, each for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2028. Commissioners must be a resident of Sparks or have a valid Sparks business license. Applications will be accepted until 4 p.m. on Friday, May 30th, 2025. And for our next opening, there is a vacancy on the Sparks Civil Service Commission for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2028. Commissioners must be Sparks residents. Commissioners cannot be a city employee or related to one within the 3rd degree of consanguinity, or a member of the city council or appointed to another board or commission of the city. Applications will be accepted until 4 p.m. on May 30th, 2025. And for our third one, there are 7 vacancies on the Sparks Citizens Advisory Committee, each serving coterminous with the appointing elected official. Committee members must be Sparks residents. Persons interested in serving on any of these committees should complete a community service application online at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us/getinvolved. Simply complete the application and submit it, and we will take it from there. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to consent items. Do we have anyone that wants to remove a consent item? All right, with that, we'll take a motion. Member Vanderwell?
Move to approve agenda items 8.1 through 8.4 is submitted.
Member Abbott?
Second, please.
Please vote. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. And 9.1, consideration, discussion, possible approval of the Green Waste Disposal Grant, AC 6112, through the Nevada Fire Chiefs Association in the amount of $29,000, with the City of Sparks required match of $0 for 8 dumpsters to assist with wildfire fuels reduction.
Good morning, all. For the record, Matt Caldwell, Sparks Fire Department, engine captain. Last month, Mel Evans presented to you a couple grants that she was finishing up here. One of them was on our behalf. It was through the Nevada Fire Chiefs Association for wildfire risk reduction program in conjunction with the Bureau of Land Management. What we built for this was a $29,000 grant that will allow us to drop dumpsters throughout the city of Sparks, primarily in areas that are adjacent to wildland, so that folks can dispose of their natural vegetation and improve their defensible space around their homes without having to get a truck and a trailer and take it to the county dump. So the goal here is to drop 8 dumpsters at the locations you can see there. These are on city property or adjacent to. Spring, fall, and then spring of next year, the grant will expire May 1st, 2026. So we'll have to be done by then. And a couple of the communities have expressed interest in doing this themselves as a, community HOA drive so that they can fill these dumpsters. In coordination with the grant, banners will be placed on the dumpsters with QR codes that direct residents to the Living with Fire program, Fire Adapted Nevada programs, and explain the grant a little bit more. And then we'll be doing a media release here in the next few weeks. So I'm here today. The one thing remaining on the grant was to receive approval from council, and that's what I'm here for today.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Matt? Yes, Mr. Abbott.
I have a quick one. Is a green waste dumpster the same as just a normal dumpster, or is there an actual difference?
So it's a 30-yard waste management dumpster. Okay. The purpose of it and what the banners will label is that it's for natural vegetation from around your homes, juniper bushes, dead trees, things of that nature.
So hopefully not too many people throw a mattress in or anything, which I guess maybe is better there than in our alley, but.
Yeah, better than in the desert.
Yeah.
But yeah, Waste Management did advise that as long as they can close the dumpsters, that they'll take whatever ends up there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? With that, I'm willing to entertain a motion. Member Rodriguez.
I move to accept the Green Waste Disposal Grant, AC-6112 from Nevada Fire Chiefs Association, the amount of $29,000 with the city Sparks required to match $0 for 8 dumpsters to assist with wildfire fuels reduction.
Member Abbott?
Second.
All right, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9.2, consideration, discussion, possible approval of a regional road impact fee offset agreement, AC 6109, with Five Ridges Development Company Incorporated for the offset of eligible improvements related to the widening and intersection modification construction along Highland Ranch Parkway between Pyramid Highway and Five Ridges Parkway. Hi, Amber.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, Amber Sosa, City Engineer. The item before you today for your consideration is a regional road impact fee offset agreement with the Five Ridges Development Company. The Regional Road Impact Fee Program, also called the RIF program, allows developers who construct or dedicate offered improvements that are already currently contained in the RIF Capital Improvement Program. They can be reimbursed for these contributions through RIF waivers. To do that, the developer must first enter into an offset agreement, such as the one before you today, and that agreement does need to be approved by the local agency and the RTC. The one before you today was approved by the RTC board on April 18th. So what this offset agreement does is it specifically identifies the proposed improvements, the estimated RIF waivers, and outlines the duties and responsibilities for each party. By approving this offset agreement, it would allow the RTC to issue an estimated $6,726,290 in RIF waivers to the Five Ridges Development Company. The specific project and improvements, if I can direct you to the screen, please, is along Highland Park Ranchway. You'll see Pyramid and Sparks Boulevard down here to the bottom. The improvements widen Highland Ranch Parkway from the entrance of Five Ridges down to Pyramid and offer intersection improvements at Pyramid and Highland intersection. Once the improvements are made, the waivers can be used to offset cash payments for RIF fees. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Would anyone care to make a motion if we don't have any questions? Mr. Rodriguez.
We'll get there. There we go. These are rare, I'm sure. I move to approve the regional road impact fee offset agreement AC 6109 with Five Ridges Development Company Incorporated for the offset of eligible improvements related to the widening and the intersection modification construction along Highland Ranch Parkway and between Pyramid Highway and the Five Ridges Parkway.
Member Vanderwell,
Second.
please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Oh.
I think Julie's.
Yes. I mean, he worked to be done on Pyramid, I support.
Since you read the motion, I kind of assumed it was an approval, but yeah. All right. We'll move on to 9.3, consideration, discussion, possible approval of a reimbursement to the City of Reno for Sparks' share of the development of a construction contract with Resource Development Company, DBA FAR Construction Corporation, for the aeration tank 1A rehabilitation project at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility in the amount not to exceed $4,915,625, with a Sparks share being $1,542,031.56. Mr. Menser.
Well, afternoon again, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. For the record, Casey Menser, Treatment Plant Manager at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. With your permission, I'd like to present items number 9.3 and 9.4 together since they relate to the same project. All right, so what we're looking at doing here is constructing carrying out rehabilitation work for one of our aeration basins, that being aeration basin 1A. Those are just very large concrete tanks that facilitate the removal of pollutants from the wastewater as it comes into the plant. So this is what one looks like empty. Like I said, they're very large. This is one pass of 3. They're about 1.7 million gallons. And over the past 4 years, we've been doing a lot of work to do condition assessments on all 5 of the tanks that we have. And all of them have been found to need some level of rehabilitation work, this one being the most immediate need. The components inside of this tank were all reviewed and averaged between a fair to poor condition. And so what we're looking at doing is this construction project to fix the degraded concrete, replace the broken mechanical components, and you'll see that there's this large number of circular diffuser heads that are down here at the bottom. Those were installed in 2006, and they have a general recommended service life of service life of 7 years. And so we haven't touched them in about 20. And so it's time. They're at the end of their useful life. And this tank, I will say, is original to the plant. It's 1964 vintage. And so it's just time that we go ahead and do the rehabilitation. We received 3 bids for this project. And I'm very pleased to say that the lowest responsive bidder was a resource development company, and they were $1.4 million lower than the engineer's estimate. So while $5 million is certainly a large number, it is a lot lower than what we were expecting. So I'm pleased to say that it was a competitive bid, and it worked out in our favor. The second item that is before you, item number 9.4, is for us to hire an engineering consulting company to provide engineering services during construction of these improvements. This is pretty typical when you have projects of this size. They are familiar with this project. The engineer that we're looking to contract with is Carollo Engineers. They're the ones that did the assessment and the design work for these tanks. We view them to be the most qualified contractor. This is budgeted work. It was budgeted for in the TUMWRF fiscal year 2025 capital improvement program. I think in light of the other discussions today, I want to point out that these are specifically sewer fund projects. And so these projects are supported by the funds that we get from the sewer rate payers as well as the connection fees to add into the sewer system. So this is not general fund money. It is anticipated improvements, and it was budgeted for. So with that, I'm happy to answer any and all questions.
Any question for Casey? All right. Would someone be willing to make a motion? Member Abbott.
I move to approve a reimbursement to the city of Reno for Sparks' share of a construction contract with the Resource Development Company doing business as FAR Construction Corporation for the Aeration Tank 1A Rehabilitation Project at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility in the amount not to exceed $4,915,625, with Sparks' share being $1,542,031.56.
All right, Member Vanderwell,
Second.
please vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, Casey. Then we'll move on to 9.4, consideration, discussion, possible approval of an agreement AC 6108 with Carollo Engineers Incorporated in the city of Reno for engineering services during the construction of the aeration tank 1A rehabilitation project at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility in the amount not to exceed $522,017, with Spark share being $163,756.73. Is there anything you'd like to add, Casey?
Nope.
All right, with that, questions or a motion? Member Vanderwell?
I move to approve agreement AC 6108 with Carollo Engineers Incorporated in the city of Reno for engineering services during construction for the aeration tank 1A rehabilitation project at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility in the amount not to exceed $522,017, with Spark share being $163,756.73.
All right. Mr. Rodriguez?
I'll second.
And with that, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9.5, consideration, discussion, possible approval of fiscal year 2025-2026 FY26 budget recommendations and fiscal items, including 1, direction for the City of Sparks final FY26 budget, including possible approval of an increase to the waste management franchise fee, and 2, possible approval of the proposed 5-year capital improvement plan. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. I am Jeff Kronk, your Chief Financial Officer for the record. I am here today to present what I hope is decision day. So just wanted to toss up a slide here to kind of remind us where we've been and some of the work that we still need to do to kind of cross this finish line for the fiscal 26 budget. As a reminder, we've had a couple of workshops now, started back in December. Those were all very, very informative, and I always look forward to, getting in front of you and I speak for other department heads as well as when we're talk to you about the service impacts and such. A lot of work got us to where we were last month when we met for both our CIP workshop and also our status quo, where are we at, how are we going forward, and review of all the fiscal expectations to that date. We filed our tentative budget by April 15th, which is the deadline by state law, and that brings us to where we're at today. So I call this kind of decision day. What we're looking for you today specifically is 3 things. So approval on the direction of how to build the budget. And so I'll bring that back to you at the next council meeting on May 27th. So direction on that, which would include what kind of a increase, if any, to a waste management franchise fee that we have been discussing, and today is the day that we need to decide where we want to land on that and fold that into our budget document that we're going to bring forward on May 27th. The third thing I'll be looking forward to for your approval today is just approval of the CIP, which again we talked about in detail at our workshop on April 7th. And today is really just presenting it to you and getting a formal approval that we're to roll that into the fiscal 26 budget process. And then just as a reminder, we have to file our final budget by June 1st. And one other thing I think I neglected to put on here, just as a reminder, on May 27th, this is just kind of one of those for the record kind of things, we'll have to hold a public hearing on the tentative budget. You might recall we have to do that every year. We don't hold a public hearing on the final budget, but we are required to hold it on the tentative budget. We're going to do that immediately before bringing the actual final budget document to you on May 27th. So just as a reminder, and that's both true for the city and the redevelopment agency. Okay, so long and the short of it, I have a number of slides, but honestly, I'm going to kind of buzz through these. A lot of these slides are going to look very familiar to you. I kind of designed this presentation to be, I think I feel more like a facilitator today than anything else. I really want to hear what your discussion is, and ultimately, this is your budget. Give us direction. We'll go build it and file it and then manage it. But what we're presenting to you is 2 options that's based on the direction and the feedback that we got at the April 7th workshop. Specifically, option 1 is essentially the same as what we presented at that April 7th workshop. Option 2, which includes, by the way, option 1 includes the 5% increase in the waste management fee. Option 2 is basically option 1 plus an additional 5 percentage point increase in waste management fee and a recommendation of how to utilize those funds. Just to remember what the waste management fee increase is, a 5 percentage point increase would generate about $1.5 million of revenue. So when we're talking about option 2, we're talking about an additional $1.5 million of revenue per the discussion that we had last April, and what we would do that with that $1.5 million. So specifically, we were talking about hiring 3 police officers. So again, police officers have not been on the recommended list for layoffs, but there are a bunch of frozen positions, current vacancies that are frozen or being recommended to be frozen. We would be recommending to hire 3 of those off the frozen list, and then also removing 2 firefighters that are on the layoff list. So that would take about $800,000, round numbers, $800,000 of that $1.5 million new revenue. We would also recommend spending $200,000 to increase our transfer out to the CIP, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, but recall that we're recommending shorting our funding of the CIP going into fiscal '26. So looking, if we're going to generate a little bit more revenue, maybe enhancing that a little bit more and not underfunding it so much. And then finally, the balance of that, then the $500,000 would be used to eliminate the budget deficit. So essentially, we're recommending three different things, just to do a quick recap of what to do with the additional $1.5 million. And that's hiring personnel, 5 personnel to the tune of $800,000, improving our capital improvements funding for $200,000, and then eliminating the deficit. Oh, and please, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to interrupt me at all. So, like I said, I do feel like a facilitator. Yes, please.
With that, Member Vanderwell?
I apologize. As you're going along, I'd like to, so for everybody's information, so with these, because they're one-time funding, correct? To eliminate whatever budget deficit we have currently.
Are you talking about the additional
Yes,
1.5?
the two options.
The $1.5 million would be ongoing revenue,
Okay.
if that's what you're referring to?
Yes, that's what I wanted to know. So out of either one of those, correct? So out of the 5% or the 10%, it's ongoing revenue?
Ongoing revenue.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. What will be our, okay, so we do this. So what will be our fiscal deficit going into 2027?
That's on my very next slide.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Great segue. So this table I'm hoping looks familiar to you. I presented this to you a couple of different times. I do see value in same presentation format, although the numbers do change slightly. This is a reminder of how we got from there to here, so to speak. This is kind of a cause of change, if you will. So we started our conversations with you in December with an $18.2 million deficit, and this is designed to show you from top to bottom all the different activities, which I've gone through before. This is really no change when you're looking at option one to what we presented back in April of how we got to it from an $18.2 million deficit that we initially identified in December down to down here. Oop, how'd that happen? There we go. Down here to about $500,000 deficit. That's all option one, and you can see the waste management fee increase of $1.5 million in here. So option two, again, I'm highlighting just the differences between option one and option two. So this is really just kind of a different way to look at what I just described. Option two would be spending an additional, $800,000, spending an additional $200,000 on the CIP, and eliminating the deficit with an additional $1.5 million waste management fee. So that's another kind of pictorial way to look at it. Specifically, when you're asking about deficit, this next chart, if I can jump ahead, shows it.
If
please.
Mr. Rodriguez would like to actually
Yes.
ask a question.
Thank you. So on the slide here, C-tax. So just for the public that may not be here or for the people in the room, can you kind of go over the portions of the C-tax that Washoe County gets, Reno, and then we?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, our distribution for the City of Sparks is 12.4%. Roughly. It bounces a little bit, but it's pretty close to 12.4% of whatever's generated within the county. And that includes everything from taxable sales to real property transfer taxes, cigarette license, real property or registration fees from your automobile. Anything that's generated within the county in those tax components, we get 12.4%. Reno gets about 30%. Washoe gets about 50%. The rest of it is about 8% as the remaining is taken up by the special districts.
Thank you. So about 12 cents of a dollar is what Sparks gets. Reno gets about 30-ish, and I thought that at some point it was
Washoe is about 50.
Or Washoe, and then Reno's about 35 cents of a dollar. So we are last in the pecking order. So I just want to get that on the record for the public. I know one of our public commenters spoke about equity matters, and I will say that this is something that, learning on my short tenure here on the board, that's not equity. The Sparks citizens worth about 12 cents of a dollar, where elsewhere is doubled at least. So thank you for that.
Okay. Okay. Oh, please.
Member Vanderwell.
If you can also just furthering the C-tax conversation, because I don't know if it's in your presentation, can you also discuss the difficulty that we're having getting our C-tax dollars due to what's happening at the state?
Yes, and I was going to talk about that a little bit later. Have no problem jumping ahead because it has been a pretty big headache for me. and not just me, to everybody throughout the state. So C-tax is, I'm going to list it later as one of the three that I've identified major budget risks going into the next year. It composes, I'm going to round up to 40% of our revenue. It's a little bit less than that, it's about 38%, but call it 40% because it's easier to remember. So it's a large component of what our revenue is, and it's the most unclear that it's been since in my career. So what's happening is it's always the most subject to economic impacts. That's always been true, and that always will be true. What's added difficulty this year is the state has been starting to move to a new software package. They began, that's a 3-phase process, and they started that back in November. And I believe that's going to take them 12 to 18 months to fully implement. But while we're going through that process, the amount of data that we've been getting has been confusing and inconsistent, I guess I should say, probably at best. And so right now, the level of comparison, if I could, from year to year, and the seasonality that I often look at in great detail is very unclear. So if you were asking me my expectations going into next fiscal year, I had to make a pretty good guesstimate, and it's a little bit grayer than in normal years because of the lack of data. So what we had included, just to kind of, we've talked about this before, the best data that we've had going into this, we were trending flat. It looks like we're still trending flat, but again, the data I'm getting, I don't know what it means entirely. So, and then in the following fiscal year, we included a 2% increase for fiscal 26. But don't hold me to that. So that's just one of the biggest areas of our revenues that we've been struggling making some projections on.
Member Bybee?
So Jeff, to follow up on that, are we receiving our allocation?
Yes.
I know their computers are all very much delayed for data that you're getting, but are we receiving our sales, the C-tax allocations we're supposed to be getting? Well, we think it's what we're supposed to get.
I said yes.
Okay.
We are getting distributions. Are
Okay.
they the full distributions? It's a little unclear.
Okay.
So I do know that other retailers throughout the state have been also struggling with the filing side of it. So it's not only the distribution side that the agencies are getting, but it's also the reporting side and the collection side. So it's a quite comprehensive new software system. So I know a lot of retailers were struggling. The reports that I'm getting from the state is that they have been making some collections on some back taxes, meaning some retailers have been slow paying. So I understand that's improving, but I don't know the extent. So yes, we're receiving our distributions, but what I don't know is again, and that's affecting our comparability, because what I don't know is how much of that is catch up and how much of that is maybe just general economic softness.
Okay, and one more follow-up on that. So the 12.4% that Sparks gets, is this distribution to the county, to Reno, and to us, is that all set by the state legislature? Is it NRS?
Yes. This was set up actually in the mid-90s. So it was to get a little bit of a history lesson. I'll make it very short. But basically, all those tax components that compose the C-tax, there's 6 different components. Those used to have their own collections and distribution models for each one. Those got consolidated, both collection and then distribution, back in the mid-90s. That's when the base allocations are 12%. So to speak, Reno's 30 and Washow's 50. Those were set back in the mid-90s and have not changed.
And it was based on population and has not been updated to reflect the growth that we've seen in comparison. And if we wanted to change this, with a lot of us, when we found this out, are very much looking at how do we get that change, we would have to go through the state legislature in order to make that change.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, please continue.
Okay. This is another way to look at a very high level, our total sources, which is revenues and transfers in. This is just a general fund. compared to our total uses, which is our expenditures and transfers out. So to kind of orient you, kind of looking right to left, looking at fiscal 23 and 24 actual results, those are audited results. 23 was our high water mark. So I'm going to draw your eyes, if I could, down to the very bottom of the screen, where we actually had the last year of a net surplus, a budget surplus, if you will, of $4.5 million. Fiscal 24, the inflation really started kicking in, really in fiscal 23, but we really started seeing it hit the books in fiscal 24. We ended up with a $4.1 million deficit. We're expecting fiscal 25 to be about an $8.1 million deficit. And then that gets us to our options 1 and 2. And again, remember when we first presented this to you, we were at an $18.2 million deficit. So lots of work. This has been a very difficult budget season to get through, but a lot of work to get us to that option 1 and option 2, whereby option 1 is the just the 1.5% waste management fee increase. Option 2 has the dual increases, if you will, or the 10 percentage point increases. Option 1 has still a net deficit of $500,000, whereas option 2 wipes it out completely and leaves us with a small, surplus. So that's one way to look at this. When it comes to our fiscal policies, kind of the same look. Again, looking at a 4-year comparison. Looking right to left, fiscal 23 and 24 actuals, fiscal 25 estimates, and then our 2 budget options on the far left here. So again, I'll just highlight a couple of these.
If we may interrupt you with another question, please.
Anytime.
I would rather
Absolutely.
get it along the way than try to save
Absolutely.
up. Okay, so on our budget options and everything else, because later on our agenda today, we have 2 contracts that we're approving with police. Are those numbers baked into these numbers?
You are excellent today at anticipating my points.
Trying to catch
that is
it up
awesome.
front so I don't forget.
Nope, that's really good. You actually highlighted the second large risk.
Sorry.
So far you're 2 for 2.
Hey.
See if you can guess my third
There
one.
you go.
No,
Hey.
you're doing great.
Yeah, then I can be 3 for 3. There you go.
These are great. No, so the second risk I have going into the fiscal 26 budget is that all of our contracts all of our personnel contracts except the fire battalion chiefs are open for negotiations. We do have one on your agenda for sergeants and lieutenants, police sergeants, lieutenants later on, but we didn't have that information in time to bake it into the budget. So we're not going to fold that into the budget approval just because it's so late in the game. It takes us a fair amount of time to cost it out, attach it to each individual's allocation, and then get that through the budget. That just takes too much time. More time than we have, I guess, available. So to your question, it's not included in these numbers.
So with that, then, since we have all these agreements open, our starting fiscal deficit could be much higher in 27 than what we're discussing.
Yep. And that's why I'm listing it as my second largest risk, if you will.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Please continue.
So again, we've covered these fiscal policies a lot at our last April workshop. So I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but I'll highlight a couple of them. Starting with the first one, probably our primary fiscal policy is management of our ending fund balance. And the formal policy is that we want to maintain a minimum fund balance of 8.3% of expenditures or higher. So that is our minimum, and that is our formal policy. And again, looking at actuals from 23, 24, and on forward, you'll see again, fiscal 23 was our high water mark. So we were at just about 26% of an ending fund balance. Fiscal 24, that came down. Remember, that was the year that we started our fiscal deficits. And so that came down a little bit, but we were still flush from all the ARPA money and the CARES money. So that was still, buoying up, if you will, our fund balance. And then the money went away, the federal dollars went away, and now we're in what I'm considering a stable, if not entirely healthy situation. We are north of 8.3%, so you'll see in our estimates, we're estimating to be at 10.5%, and the 2 budget options are kind of in that same realm, within that 10.5 to 11%, depending on which option you might want to settle on. I would classify those as stable, again, because it's above our policy as a minimum, but it's not ideal from a cash flow. We would need at least about a 12.5%. Historically, every year is a little bit different, but historically in finance, we need about a 12.5% ending fund balance before we have to be kind of creative in some of our accounting. So, like for example, I know on a future agenda item, I believe it's going to be the first one in June. Our accounting manager Tiffany Pugh is going to bring to you a couple of requests for your approval on interfund loans. You might recall we do that every year. This year we're going to have to do one for the general fund again because we're stable, but we're getting down there a little bit. So anyway. Fiscal policy 2, no change. Fiscal policy 3, you notice again, we underfunded it, but the difference between option 1 and option 2 is that $200,000 that we talked about, depending on what we want to do with the waste management fee. No change on the stabilization fund. We're still recommending no contribution, but that is part of the one-time funds that we're looking into. We got to continue to fund that as going forward. Our fiscal policy 5, payroll costs, pretty close between the two different options. We're sitting right about that 74.3% as far as payroll costs as a percentage of revenues. And again, no change on the new policies either. So different way to look at it, but kind of concentrating on it from a fiscal policy perspective. The next two slides are identical, except one showing option 1 and the other showing option 2. I almost feel like an eye doctor. Which one is better, 1 or 2? 2 or 1? Anyway, I digress, but that's what it felt like. This table here is showing the FTE full-time equivalent reductions, staff reductions. This first one is option 1, and so it's showing it by department and by type. So again, just to kind of orient you, the types are the vacancies that are currently vacant that we're recommending to freeze for this upcoming fiscal year. This column here that's titled VESP is the Voluntary Employee Separation Plan. And those are all the ones that were approved. So we had 11 total in the general fund. And then this last column is the recommended layoffs. And then the final column here is the total staff reduction. So you're looking at between the general fund and Parks and Rec, which is kind of an impact fund, if you will. You're at right about 67 full-time equivalent positions and people that would be leaving our complement or 15% of the total complement. So that's how you read this chart. And as you're acclimating to that, I'm going to flip it on you a little bit because it's the exact same chart, except this is option 2. Again, the only difference between these two is that the option 2 would add back 3 police officers and 2 firefighters. So 3 police officers from the vacancies column and 2 firefighters from the layoff column. So you would switch from option 1 being 13 layoffs, for example, down to 11 layoffs in this example. Okay. And then here's the budget risk. So we've already covered the first 2. Thank you. Again, the C-tax risk and then the employment negotiations that we discussed. And then the last one is just itemizing the use of the one-time funds. And I'll spend a little time on this just because it's $2.4 million of one-time funds broken down, as I show you here on the slide, where it's $925,000 that we underfunded our general use CIP, and then $1.2 million for our IT CIP planned spend. Now, those were strategic underspends that we've been able to manage. A lot of staff time and staff thought went into this as to what projects we can put off. But again, I want to emphasize that is putting it off. It's not something that we just can't do at all, but there are things that we can maybe put it off to the next fiscal year. So when I'm looking at this as far as a risk goes, these are items that when we're looking to fiscal 27, we're going to have to remember that we're starting in a hole to start, if you will. All things being equal, everything being status quo, everything else as far as revenues. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, but if we could take a snapshot and put it in a vacuum, we know that we're $2.4 million based on these one-time use of funds. The other piece I didn't mention was the stabilization fund, $250,000. So if we continue to fund that, so that's where you come up with the 2.4 million. But you combine that with the $500,000 deficit that we have on option 1, you combine those and you're looking at a $2.9 million hole to start fiscal 27 in. Does that make sense? Yeah. So.
But that is still without the collective bargaining agreements that are open, correct?
Correct,
Okay,
because
thank
that's I'm listing that as a separate risk.
All right.
So
but-
these are my 3 biggest risks.
Okay.
So the
it still
C-tax
starts at
revenue.
2.9, and then all the contracts that are being negotiated currently
And
are
then
not in that.
and then whatever might happen with C-tax.
And then whatever happens during the legislature with unfunded mandates being pushed
That's
down.
always there.
Okay, thank you.
Member Bybee.
Well, we're still in that yellow box there. For 2027, if we approved option 2 today, that would erase the $500,000 budget deficit.
Correct.
So we would still be at a 2.4.
About 2.2, because we would also fund $200,000 into the CIP. So that would take our $2.9 million down. We'd eliminate the deficit of 500. We'd put $200,000 more into CIP. So that would drop it down from 2.9 to about 2.2.
So starting in fiscal 27, 2.2 deficit.
And that's before we would look at revenues. So we got to take this, it's a little bit of a grain of salt, but it is all things else being equal. That's what we'd be looking
So
at.
even with all the tough decisions we have to make today,
Right.
and if we were to get a 0 deficit today for the upcoming budget, a year from now, we're looking still
Correct.
at a $2.2 million deficit to start out.
Correct.
I want better news, Jeff.
Well, it's not 18.2 anymore.
That's better news.
I
Thank
see
you.
26 as a transition year. We had to reset. Been talking about that here for a couple of years now. We had the federal dollars that gave us that cushion, but we've needed to reset for a couple of years now. 26, we did that. That's considered a reset. We've got that would give us our fund balance into that stable range, not real healthy range. Again, if you got rid of that $2 million, $2.2 million, that gets your fund balance into that healthy range. So to kind of put that into context. So we're kind of utilizing our ending fund balance to say, hey, let's get stable here. Let's reset. We can't survive with those deficits, clearly. So I see 26 as kind of a reset year, but the lift isn't completely done. But the heavy lift, I think, is 26. But when we're looking in 27, there's still work to do.
Did you have more you wanted to cover, Jeff?
No, not on this slide. Unless
you want to go ahead and continue on.
Okay. The next 6 slides, if I remember my count, this is really, again, just for facilitating conversation. So I'm not going to go over these, but there's 3 slides that basically show the customer bill change, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial, and what those bill changes would look like for waste management customers on the 5 percentage point increase option. And then the exact same look for residential, commercial, and industrial if we change it by 10 percentage points. So again, I didn't want to go into these in detail, but they're certainly there for conversation because those were the 2 points that we discussed at our last workshop in April. We were talking about either the 5% or 10%. The change could be something different than that, but this is what we've presented as far as our 2 options. So, but it's your budget, and decision is today, and whether you land on 5 percentage points or 10 percentage points or somewhere different, but this will show you at least from some reference. Okay. Good. Any questions? We can always come back to that. And again, that was really more for facilitating. Same on these slides. These next slides, I didn't want to cover the service impacts because we've talked about them a lot. But again, I wanted to put them up there for reference. And certainly any department heads are available to answer any questions if you want reminders or have further questions about how it might impact the services. But in general, we had $4.6 million just as a reminder, $4.6 million from the police department and their service level impacts. I'm going to buzz right through these. Fire department was $2.4 million, and then their service level impacts. And then again, for our third largest one was our community services department at $2.6 million of budget cuts. And again, their service level impacts. And again, we talked about this quite extensively at our April meeting, but I did just feel it's important to kind of toss it up there as a reminder. And again, just kind of fulfilling that role as facilitator. And you know, this was a group effort, and there's a lot of work that all the departments put into this, and they're the experts, you know. So if there's a question about service level impacts on any of these departments, the last one being the smaller departments, you know, came to $3.4 million. So that's just the dollar impact, but we can certainly talk about the service impacts if you want. And then I wanted to finish my presentation on all the other funds. So I'll go over these individually. I promise I'll get everybody out of here in time for dinner. No, I'm teasing. But we do have a total of 30 different funds. Obviously, and for, you know, clearly appropriate, we've been having our conversations regarding the general fund. Most of these other funds have been presented to you by way of the capital improvement plan. But there are, again, 30 different funds that we have to manage, and all told, all the expenditures, put them all together, including the general fund, is $282.2 million. So these slides, this particular slide is just capturing all those different fund types. So we have the enterprise funds, the general fund, internal service funds, capital projects funds, debt service funds, special revenue funds, and the redevelopment agency. All those together come out to 282. So that is the entirety of what the budget will bring back to you next time, should you approve this look, and option one is what's being baked into this. The rest of the slides break out each of these types. So for example, here's what the enterprise fund looks like in a little bit more detail. Here are all the capital projects funds in more detail, so on and so forth. I wasn't planning on going over these, but they're certainly here for your edification, information. I can answer any questions about it. But that is the extent of my presentation. I do want to remind you what I'm after today is really three things. Just an approval of the final budget direction. Again, that based on that direction, we'll go build the final budget on the State Department tax form, or State Department of Taxation forms, bring them back to you on the 27th for your approval and signature. So that's the first one, and then including specifically where we want to land on the waste management fee increase. And then the third one is just approval of the capital improvements plan. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Comments, questions? Member Vanderwell?
Thank you. The city has a rainy day fund, correct?
Yes.
How much is in there?
About $2.3 million, and we chose not to fund it in fiscal 26. That is one of the one-time use funds that we had talked about.
So how much would that cover?
That's a great question. So a stabilization fund or a rainy day fund is kind of like a savings account for emergency purposes, and it's more of a how much should be in there is a feel more than, you know, it's much more subjective than anything else. It's probably one of those things, if you have 10 people in the room, you get 12 different answers. It's a question of how much do you think it'll cover during an emergency? Because we can only access those funds for two primary purposes. Well, really only two purposes. One, if our revenues fall below 4% from the previous fiscal year, or if we have a declared disaster, you know, a declared emergency. If we have upon declaration, we can tap into those funds. So it really kind of depends on the emergency. If we have a major earthquake and, you know, a 7-point whatever earthquake, no, that's going to be a tip of the iceberg. But would it be enough to handle a minor flood? Yes. You know what I mean? So it really kind of depends on how comfortable you are. I would personally, this is just me personally, I would like to see us build up about $4 to $5 million in that fund. But again, that's one opinion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Member Bybee?
So I don't know if this is a question for you, Jeff, or it may be probably for the city manager. Can you explain, as we're looking at the two options, the second option does eliminate our deficit, but on the staffing side, on adding back 2 fire and 3 police positions. Can you discuss why those numbers and what the need is for that? Well, we can't have enough public safety. I mean, that's our top priority, bottom line. But how we got to those numbers and the difference, because both fire and police both are looking at, or we're looking at an 11% reduction, and yet I was looking at finance took 35%, HR. I mean, as you look at all those percentages, across the board, departments are taking huge cuts. And so we're all, it's pain that's being shared by everyone, which is really the only way we're going to get where we need to get today, is by a little bit of shared pain, or maybe a lot, to get us forward. And we will be moving forward, and we'll get through this. But the pain right now is tough. But can you explain with police and fire and the staffing and frozen positions versus why those numbers, and kind of give a little bit more explanation on that? That'd be great.
Sure. And thank you for the question, Councilmember Bybee. From our perspective, we looked through several lenses. First and foremost, what were the council priorities? So when we go through the workshop, we talk about some of those things. Obviously, public safety was very, very high on the list. So we looked at reasonably, what can we do with another $1.5 million? We analyzed kind of where each of those departments were and the total amount available, and said, let's invest there because that's the council priority. It's a high council priority. So that's how we moved the 5 positions back in. The second thing that we know is very, very important to council is fiscal sustainability. So we said, okay, let's take the portion of that and eliminate the $500,000 that we had in the other one. And the last one is just to refund, because it is listed as a council goal priority with relation to the CIP. So that's why I took the remainder of that and put it to the CIP to reduce that. There's several other things at play here too, and I think Councilmember Vanderwill brought it up, and I'll address that a little bit as well. When we're talking about moving forward, we still have work to do. We're 2.9 million still-ish upside down, depending on what option you take. Additionally, I think worth noting, we did some other one-time things that we won't be able to do in the future. For instance, we took $750,000 out of the fire apparatus replacement fund. And we did that because we utilized bond dollars this year to buy new fire apparatus. So we were able to do that this year because we had the ability to use the bond to do that. So there's some other one-time things we're going to have to work through to get us where we need to get. And then lastly, talking about strategies moving forward, I think it's 2 or 3-fold. Number one, we'll be looking at just natural attrition. We probably need another 18 to 20 positions to balance us, to get us to a spot where we can maintain it. We'll use the rest of the year to evaluate positions as they become available. And those ones that we can, we'll keep those back to try to buy the runway. The second piece to that leg is we're looking at a lot of fee adjustments and potential ways that we can enhance revenues to stabilize this as well. So we're analyzing various things there. You'll have one before you the end of this month to talk about naming rights for facilities and different things like that, such as GURP. We believe we can generate dollars that way. We're looking at our whole Parks and Recreation fee structure. All of those things help offset what we're doing. So there's a couple ways we're coming at it moving forward to try to buy the runway and ramp we need to get us back to stable. Because we've deficit spent for what will be, in theory, 3 years in a row. And it gets really, I couldn't recommend in good conscience going much below 10% any fund balance for us to be able to do what we need to do without, exposing us in ways I don't feel comfortable doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I guess specifically on fire and police, how do we get to those numbers? The 3 and 2 is kind of where my question was going. Sorry, I wasn't clear.
No, that's probably my fault. We looked at what they had available and where their vacancies were, what their total vacancies were. We wanted to try to equitably provide those resources back that we could within that additional 1.5 million. And so that's how we chose 3 and 2. If you look, they're both roughly 11% when it's all said and done on that second option. So they took the least impact in terms of just raw numbers, if you will, percentage-wise. But we were trying to find ways to put those back in. We talked to both of the chiefs about what they could do and how they would utilize those, and that was part of the conversation where we felt like that was appropriate with the remaining dollars we had to bring you back something that was sustainable moving forward. One thing we were very, very cautious of is not getting too aggressive. And let's just say we brought back and took the whole 1.5 and put it in people. I would hate to have to come back to you 6 or 8 months from now and say, hey, we're in a bad spot because, we've had a revenue decrease or whatever it may be. And then our only option at that point is layoffs of those positions that we just bring on. So we wanted to bring something to you with that we thought was more sustainable moving forward.
All right. Actually, if I could ask a couple of questions. Regarding the waste management franchise fee, what are Reno and Washoe County currently charging for a franchise fee?
They're currently at 8%,
8%.
which is what we're at currently as well.
So we're at 8%. Reno and Washoe County both are at 8%.
Correct.
So whether we go option 1, we're going to go up 5% above them. Option 2 will take us 10% above them.
Correct.
All right. And then waste management, as far as a subsidy for low-income homes, what options do we have there?
Yeah. There is a rate for seniors, and here I pulled it up on the residential customer side. The rate for seniors represents a 15% discount off the standard 96-gallon toter. So whatever they happen to have, that's the rate that they have based on that service type. But that's available to them.
Okay. Just for seniors, it's not?
70 and up. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Is how they define senior.
Okay, got it. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Rodriguez.
There we go. Our Mayor Pro Tem did bring up a good question as far as like what Reno and county are paying. And I mean, like, I guess to that effect, but they're also making at least double what we're making out of C-Tax, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, like, really, I mean, just for like, I guess the public, I mean, I know I've only been here a short time, but I would say that local governance, we have the card stacked against us. PERS increase going up, set by the state. Unfunded mandates, set by the state. Dillon's rule, set by the state. Or C-Tax, something that's set by the state from last millennium. And, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a whole lot we as a local governance can do to try to generate revenue or at least be competitive with our big brothers across the street or across the street on Pyramid or McCarran. Like, what options, just for the public to know, like, we're stuck in this position that where property tax can't go up more than X amount. You know, the cost of a pickup from last millennium to the cost of one now is going to be obviously different. COLA increases, PERS increases. I mean, like, what can we as a city do to try to combat this?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Most of our fees are set, the vast majority of our fees are set by the legislature, and we're at the cap at a lot of those fees, and we have an inability to change those without legislative action. So your point is absolutely correct. So any changes, not any changes, but most changes that would move the needle, if I can say that, that would be significant or material in nature. Think property taxes, C-taxes, would have to be through the legislature. There are options with C-tax that you can enter into an interlocal agreement, but you'd have to have willing partners to give up some of their revenues to fund.
Yeah, take Reno and county being like, yes,
Right.
we'll give up less, you know, they'll
Right.
take less money, right?
But anything substantial or certainly structural would have to be done at the legislative level.
And just again for the public, so are we seeing this anywhere else in northern Nevada as far as City of Fernley, City of Winnemucca, City of Lovelock, City of Elko, City of Ely? Are they your
Yeah, I would
counterparts
say
over
keep
there?
going. I think it's the entire state.
So I guess really one of the main things options that we have here today before us, one of the few things that we have under control is this waste management in order to at least some minimum maintain public safety.
That's correct. That's one of the few areas, like I said, I use the term needle mover, but you know, that's anything, if you're looking to generate any kind of material revenue, the waste management fee is the one area that doesn't have a cap set by statute. Our other franchise fees do, like gas and electric, marijuana licensing fees. You know, these are all capped by statute. The waste management fee is not capped. It's set by agreement, and there isn't a cap. Any increase would be borne by the customers. That is what is in the agreement, but that is a set agreement between the city and Waste Management.
And I guess, just a statement for the record, if I may, I fully support at least a minimum of waste management fee increase up to 10%, given how the cards are really stacked against us here, especially in this county. While we may be higher above our partners in Washoe and Reno, I do believe these, people that I talk to in my ward, this is something, they want cops, they want firefighters, they want people to, help pull weeds. And I know that there's different geographies in Sparks, but, our stack, again, those are just a few things that are against us. So, I do support option 2 at a minimum, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Member Abbott.
Sure, thank you. Let me just hop over. Hey, Jeff, on the senior tote question, they also, Waste Management offers some help for low income as well, correct?
I believe they do, but I'm not familiar with their programs. I do know they have these different set rates, for that they set at that 15% discount for everybody else, so they can qualify for that rate. Whether they have other programs, I'm not familiar with.
And the tote for seniors, is that the same size?
Yes.
As a 96 gallon?
Yes.
Okay. And then hold up, I got questions all over. And then this one was actually probably for Dion. I'm going to have you put on your speculating hat the best you can here. So I know we're trying to build runway, talking about the next budget cycle. I know Parks and Rec, we're starting, we have a third party looking at changing some of those fees and where we're at. So, I said, I know we're speculating a little bit on this one, but looking at that, I know we're talking about fire inspection fees. What type of runway, if you can speculate, maybe between both of you, that we can build with those two? And obviously, I know we're really early on some of those stages, especially on Parks and Rec. But is that $500,000? Is that?
I think with what we're talking about there, we can approach $1 million.
Okay.
Annually.
Yeah. And then also, hopefully, we'll be able to get to, that doesn't help general fund. Never mind. It's credit card fees on our sewer bills, which that's not that. So okay. So $1 million.
Again,
Speculating.
give or take, there's certainly moving parts there, but we're looking at
sure.
We're looking at some other pieces too that perhaps we could generate additional dollars on. We're trying to analyze, what they look like, how would these work. We want to make sure at the end of the day too that this is something that the community can still leverage and use, that we don't price ourselves out of things. We've got to find the balance there where it supports programs, but at the same time doesn't become so cost prohibitive that it just doesn't work. And that's the balance we're trying to strike. And part of that is just going through and analyzing the various ones and where we're at and what those costs are and where do we have perhaps some capacity, and looking at those and then bring forth a package that would allow us to capitalize. And, I'll use a Roseville example, but they're opening a new sports complex that's similar to GURP in ways, and they're going to generate at least $750,000 annually just in naming rights on that.
Got you.
As an example.
Got you. Okay. And then my last one is more just a statement. Obviously, I think option 1 or 2 is going to have an impact on our community, as well as already, Tumwa's rates are going up, or we're looking at sewer, our own sewer rates are going up. NV Energy, all the utilities as a whole, where I would just ask us where we can, as well as our NV Energy friends in Tumwa, as well as Waste Management, to help talk about low income options. As we are having a rate increase across the board on all these, that people are going to be in sometimes probably worse situations than they are today. And I think just for us to all, as well as just communication that we can do from our own channels, I think that'd be great too, to get that word out. Because we're looking at an increase here, but looking at all those increases across the board, as well as your grocery store, as well as your pharmacy, as well as everything else that goes up, people might not have houses. They might not have places to call home. And I support our first responders 100% here. But I represent around 25,000 people that these increases are very impactful to them, as well as I recognize it's impactful to them if they don't have someone that is able to show up when they call 911. So I just keeping all that in mind, just for us to provide resources, to our community members, and that's for all of our wards. I think we all represent people. There's different type of housing types, different dynamics for families in all of our wards. That these are increases that impact all of us and can make our city a different world in the future. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Member Bybee?
So on the waste management fee, when is the last time Sparks raised our fee to residents?
2015, if my memory's correct, we raised it from 5 to 8.
Okay, so we're 10 years. And it doesn't make it to Councilman Abbott's point, and I'm very cognizant of especially fixed income, anyone on a fixed income. A lot of that is seniors, at least there's a senior discount on these. But really I mean, it's not ironic, but it is, inflation is what got us here. Bottom
It may
line.
have been 2017. I'm questioning.
Okay.
It's either 15 or 17
Okay.
was when we made that change.
But
A
inflation,
number of years ago.
inflation has, overall, what inflation has done to the nation, to the community, to the city of Sparks. And when we look at these deficits, we're on our third year, is really inflation. And our expenditures outpacing or doubling what our revenue's coming in. It's just not sustainable, whether it's your own checkbook or whether it's the city checkbook. And inflation has affected all of us individually. So our residents that are living in our different wards, from what they're paying at the gas station to what they're paying for bacon and eggs or basic groceries, as well as all these utility costs that are inching up with inflation, is really is tough because it affects every single person. There's not anybody who's not affected. But really, when people look at where we are, and you hear critics who think we're not managing the budget, I find in 10 and a half years here, we are very fiscally conservative. I know that's my number one thing. I'm, a fiscal hawk on every dollar that I spend, because every person in my ward and in this city works too hard. We all work too hard. And so I take very seriously every dollar that I spend in the time I've been on this council, because I owe it to my businesses, I owe it to my residents, to be responsible with that. So I feel as a city, we have been, we haven't gone crazy on any expenditures. And I think through your guidance and all of our department heads are very cognizant of being fiscally conservative. And yet the powers, the things that have affected us are outside our control, to Councilman Rodriguez's point of the state, so the state has impacted us. Inflation has been federal. 2 years ago when you had 9% inflation and people are like, oh, we're only down to 2%, but they forget it's compounded. So when we had 9% and 6 and 5 and 4, we're compounding that. So even if we're at 2% inflation today, it's not just 2% because we never get to go back. So I think where we are today, unfortunately, a lot of it, to Councilman Rodriguez's point, is frustrating for us because it feels so out of our control. And yet what is in our control on where we go from here, how we handle this, how we as a city and we as a team, every department, every position, to get us back on track. And I can't start this next budget with another deficit. I just can't do it, especially looking forward to 2027 and having to read that we're looking at another one. But today, I've had 2 years with a budget deficit and I don't want to start with one. So I think it does give us, as rough as the decisions today and as painful as they are, maybe because I'm the eternal optimist, I'm always looking at what is the silver lining? So we can learn how to be more efficient, to be more streamlined, to look at technology, to look at things that could help us run lean and mean and be more efficient and effective with less money. It's not a bad thing. So at the end of the day, I think there will be positive things that come out of this, despite the pain today of the decision we've got to make. It's a hard decision, and that's when we all got elected. It's part of the job that not everything we do and decisions we make are easy and are fun, and it's a tough decision, but we have to be fiscally responsible, and we can, just like our own checkbook, we can only spend what we have. And we can't, I can't stay in a deficit and spend money that we don't have. We owe our residents that, and we'll all move forward. And I appreciate your work and Dion's work and all of our department heads of really hammering out from an $18.2 million deficit in December to where we are today. That is the good news, even though the decision today is tough. So thank you.
So I'll go ahead and make my little comments here. I'll start out actually with the same thing. I want to thank City Manager. Thank you, Jeff. Thank all the department directors for the work that you guys have done. This is not a fun topic. When you're looking at, we've already been running lean, and now we're taking it even deeper to the point where we've done the freeze. We've called for the voluntary retirements. Now the next step. And as I've told many of you, 30 some years in business, the most difficult things I've ever had to do was when you start considering people's lives and the impact you're going to have on a decision you're making about where you go. But I feel strongly that we have to be fiscally responsible, and we have to make good decisions on how we move forward as a city. And with that, I mean, some of the comments that at the beginning of the meeting, we heard people talking about equity and being equitable. The one thing I'd like to point out is even under option 1, you've got some departments that are having staff reductions of 40%, 36%, 25%, 31%, whereas police and fire are 11%. And then if we look at option 2, fire is at 9% staff reduction, police at 10% staff reduction, while you still have all the others at the 40%, 36%, 31%. And as far as the way that I look at it, as far as being equitable, we can't kill some of the departments and put the burden on them to run at those huge reductions without doing it across the board. The hard part is when it comes to public safety. And I appreciate all of the folks that are here from our first responders. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making your comments known to us. The one thing that I would counter to what you're saying is that everything we do at the city pretty much has to do with public safety. Whether it's the roads that are being maintained or not maintained, or the sewer system, or any other part of our business that we are doing, most all of it relates to public safety and public well-being. And so I just want to say we need to be looking at it broader than just police and fire, which are typically who we think of as first responders and our public safety people. And with that, I just want to say that we have to be very conscious, as you've heard of my counterparts up here, about what kind of increases we can pass along. We've already heard about Truckee Meadows Water Authority, sewer increases, Waste Management already took their increase, and now we're going to tack on another increase into that. How much can our citizens take? How much can our businesses take before they pull the plug? I personally try and talk to business owners and managers all the time to see where they are, especially with the state of Nevada not being so helpful with us on knowing where things are financially statewide. And a lot of them are voicing concern. I mean, some of them are saying, quite frankly, they don't know if they can make it through this. One of the larger facilities here in my ward, cereal manufacturing company, announced they're closing. That's going to be at least 100 positions that are lost. So with that being said, we need to be responding in a fiscally responsible way to make sure that we are in the right place moving forward. And I really don't believe that we can ask one department to cut 40% and another one to only cut 9%. And with that, I want to say that I'm going to support option number 1. Member Vanderwell.
Thank you. I'd like to share. We are no longer living in 2008, and we will not be going back there. Since 2008, we have had a financial meltdown and a pandemic that shut the world down. Frankly, I would like to return to a time when only one paycheck sustained a household without sacrifice. But those days are also gone. It is 2025. We are left with the tools that are provided to us by the legislature. So in order for those to change, we need to work collaboratively to let our state lawmakers know that local government needs assistance to provide the services that our communities have become accustomed to. We also need to clearly share with our community the struggles we are having, so they understand why we are asking for any increases in fees or taxes for any services. With that, we also need to make sure that the most vulnerable in our community, seniors and people on fixed incomes, are not priced out of those services. Our community pays more for taxes, for gas, for groceries, even a cup of coffee. They also should want to pay more for safe roads to drive on, police and fire to keep what they hold dear, clean and safe parks for our children to play in, and someone to answer the phone when they have a question. These are difficult decisions that we are tasked in making, and I don't believe any of us are taking them lightly. The 2026 budget was presented to not cut as deeply in public safety, as we understand that a safe community is a thriving community, but we all need to share in these budget cuts. Not one department is above another. I want to thank all of our employees for everything they do for our city.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, questions before we move to a vote? All right, with that, we'll...
Mayor Pro Tem, the recommended motion on your staff report is for option 1. If a member of council would like to make that recommendation or that motion, then we can put it up on the screen maybe. If council wishes to entertain a different option, then we will need just a moment to get it set up for you.
Thank you. So then with that, do we have someone that wishes to make a motion? Member Bybee.
Actually, I support option 2, so I will not be making a motion for option 1.
So I guess if we've got one person that's willing to make option 2 as a motion, then we could put that motion up and vote on that.
That is correct. We will just need a moment to
Okay.
change it.
And then if it doesn't pass.
All right, thank you.
Then we go to option 1.
Mayor Pro Tem, can we get a 5-minute recess?
Sure. Please enjoy a 5-minute recess. Okay, now we can start. What we'll do is entertain a motion. Member Bybee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I move to approve the city manager's final budget recommendations as presented as option 2, including an increase of the waste management franchise fee from 8% to 18% of gross receipts for the fiscal year 25-26, and the 5-year capital improvement plan as presented.
All right, thank you. Member Rodriguez?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Something real quick.
Comments?
Oh, before we vote, Member Abbott.
Yeah, so I know we've talked 5%, 10%. I don't know. I do worry. I worry on the 10%. I worry not so much about the senior totes. I think that's great and all, but we're surrounded at City Hall with senior housing. We're surrounded and just here in all of our wards, we have senior housing. I don't see senior housing as they're not going to get a reduction there. They're going to get that directly passed on to them. I see that in our low income housing. They're not going to be able to apply for something here. It's going to get directly passed on to them. I'm all for us, I think, trying to get to a spot to save as much as we can for first responders, our CIP, all that. I think if we truly wanted to look at fixing our budget woes in the future, I think and I'm not advocating for this at all, but if we're looking at 10% with a lot more reductions on that on the option 2, to put more money in our bank account for the future. I think to line up with what you're mentioning, Ms. Bybee, of looking at FY27, we're chasing 2.9 million. This helps a little, but doesn't help that much. So I won't be supporting it. Looks like it doesn't matter, but we'll go from there.
All right. So now, with that being said, please vote. And the motion passes 3-2. Abbott and Anderson opposed. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're moving on to item 10.1, public hearing consideration. Would you like to read it for us?
I'd be happy to, Mayor Pro Tem. This is public hearing, consideration, and possible approval of Agreement AC 6114 between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Supervisory Protective Association Sergeants for the period July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2027, with an estimated cost increase to the city of $146,925 in FY26 and $197,969 in FY27.
Thank you. Shauna.
Good afternoon. Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, Shauna Halterman, Human Resources Director for the record. For your consideration today are changes to the collective bargaining agreement, CBA, with Sparks Police Supervisory Protective Association, also known as SPSBA, related to sergeants. For background, the current CBA expires June 30th, 2025. The city and SPSBA's bargaining teams began meeting in winter of 2024 and met approximately 6 times. A labor market study was conducted and compared wages, special pays, and benefits to local comparable agencies. On April 22nd, 2025, the city and the sergeants reached a tentative agreement, which was ratified by the sergeants' membership on April 23rd, 2025. If approved, the 2-year contract starts July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. Substantive changes are, in year 1, which would be effective July 1st, 2025, a 3.9% base wage increase broken down as follows. 1.8% base wage increase in lieu of special pays for crisis intervention training. This training is now required by law for all officers, so a separate special pay for this training is no longer makes sense. 2.1% labor market adjustment in accordance with the total compensation survey, which indicated the sergeant's compensation was below the market average of our comparable agencies, which are Reno, Washoe, and Carson City. It was below by 2.1%. So the 2.1 and the 1.8 for the crisis intervention training totals up to 3.9%. The contract defines the starting salary for those promoted to sergeant and their salary upon completion of probation in their new position. These are some other items that were done. Special event pay overtime will be paid at 2 times the employer's calculated FLSA rate. A new retiree health benefit for qualified employees who have a minimum of 10 years of service with the Sparks Police Department, who are required to medically retire due to a job-related injury. In this case, the city will pay the employee an annual gross stipend equal to 20% of the monthly group health care premium. Increase longevity pay to a maximum of $11,000 at 21 years or more. Increase deferred comp match by $75 per pay period. Estimated fiscal impact in year 1 is $146,925. In year 2, effective July 1st, 2026, a 1% general wage increase, and estimated fiscal impact in year 2 is $197,969. Finally, I'd like to thank the negotiation team for both the city and SPSBA for their efforts and dedication that resulted in successful contract negotiations. I'm open to any questions, and again, this is a public hearing.
All right, any questions? Okay, with that, we'll close this portion and open up the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak in this public hearing section, please let us know. All right, we'll go ahead and close that section. And if we don't have any questions from council, do we have a motion? Member Vanderwell?
Move to approve agreement AC-6114 between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Supervisory Protective Association Sergeants for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027, with an estimated cost increase to the city of $146,925 in fiscal year 26 and $197,969 in fiscal year 27.
Member Rodriguez.
Second.
All right, please vote. And it passes unanimously. All right, 10.2.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is public hearing consideration and possible approval of agreement AC 6113 between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Supervisory Protective Association Lieutenants for the period July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2027, with an estimated cost increase to the city of $63,887 in FY26 and $94,609 in FY27.
Thank you.
Again, Shauna Halterman, Human Resources Director for the record. For your consideration, changes to the collective bargaining agreement, CBA, with Sparks Police Supervisory Protective Association, SPSPA, related to lieutenants. For background, the current CBA expires June 30th, 2025. The city and SPSPA's bargaining teams began meeting in winter 2024, met approximately 6 times. A labor market study was conducted and compared wages, special pays, and benefits to local comparable agencies. On April 22nd, 2025, the city and SPSPA lieutenants reached a tentative agreement, which was ratified by the lieutenant membership on April 24th, 2025. If approved, the 2-year contract starts July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. Substantive changes are, in year one, effective July 1st, 2025, a 1.5% general wage increase in lieu of special pay for crisis intervention training. Again, this training is now required by law for all officers, so special pay is no longer appropriate. The total compensation survey indicated the lieutenant's compensation was above the market average of comparable cities of Reno, Washoe, and Carson City. And because it was over the average, no labor market adjustment was needed for the fiscal year of starting 2025, or July 1st, 2025. The contract also defines the starting salary for those promoted to lieutenant and their salary upon completion of probation in their new position. Special pay event overtime will be paid at 2 times the employee's calculated FLSA rate. A new retiree health benefit for qualified employees who have a minimum of 10 years service with the Sparks Police Department, who are required to medically retire due to a job-related injury. In this case, the city will pay the employee an annual gross stipend equal to 20% of the monthly group health care premium. Increased longevity pay to a maximum of $11,000 at 21 years of service or more. Increased deferred comp match by $100 per pay period. Estimated fiscal impact in year one is $63,887. In year two, effective July 1st, 2026, a 1% general wage increase. Estimated fiscal impact at year two is $94,609. Again, thank you to SPSBA and the city for their efforts and dedication in successful contract negotiations. I'm open to any questions, and this is also a public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions for Shauna? All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please let us know, and then we'll get your name for the record. No public comment, we'll go ahead and close it, and we'll take a motion to vote. Member Abbott.
I move to approve the agreement AC-6113 between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Supervisory Protective Association lieutenants for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027, with an estimated cost increase to the city of $63,887 in FY26 and $94,609 in FY27.
And Member Rodriguez.
Second.
All right. We have a motion, a second. Please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. We have no planning, zoning, public hearings, and action items, so we're going to move on to public comments. We have the opportunity here, if anyone from the public wishes to speak, please make sure you fill out a card, but otherwise you could come on down and speak. All right. We'll then move on to the next item. 12.2, announcements from the mayor, city council, and city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'd just like to say thank you to all of the council for the engagement, the asking us the difficult questions, really diving into all the stuff that we were looking at and helping us work through. That's helpful for staff. I want to thank all our department heads and all of their staff who help pull information together and help us have informed conversations. And lastly, I want to just apologize to those that unfortunately are in the spot today where we've made the recommendations to lay them off. It's very, very difficult. I'm sorry that we're in that, and I apologize to you. I wish we could have found another way, and trust me, we tried to look at every possible scenario we could. I couldn't get it done, but I thank you for your efforts, the good attitude, and I thank everybody for what they've done over the course of their careers. This is about people as lives, and I understand that, so I thank you and apologize, but I appreciate all the council and all you've done to help us through this difficult time and the engagement that we've had. A tip of the cap from my chair to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Just wanted to bring one up. So the KTMB Great Community Cleanup took place. They had 800 volunteers across 33 sites. Several of them here in Sparks, and they cleared out 63.5 tons of trash, discarded 79 tons of green waste, removed hazardous materials, sharps from parks and public spaces. They also spread 370 yards of mulch, which is what we got to do in our area here. painted equipment, removed graffiti, planted and wrapped trees, transforming our shared spaces for a cleaner and more beautiful community. I also want to extend a heartfelt thanks to some of my fellow city folks. One of them, Council Member Abbott, was willing to roll up his sleeves and go to work over at Rock Park. Thank you. And then I want to say thanks to Shauna Halterman, our Human Resources Director that joined me over at Cottonwood Park to help with that 370 yards of cubic yards of mulch. So thank you very much for your help. I truly appreciate it. It's neat to see organizations like that are nonprofit organizations that are doing great things for the community, and I appreciate those of you that take part in it. Any other? That's it? Then we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.